This is a repair video of this Murray with a Briggs and Stratton engine. It's a 140 cc engine with 5.5 foot-pounds of gross torque. They don't rate them on horsepower anymore. And so that 550E is their designation for 5.50 gross torque. And this mower was made according to this label on the rewinder in 2015, the 12th month and the 16th day. And you look at that sticker, and it's 15, 12, 16, so that is 2015. Now, rewinders can be changed out, but this is original, and I'll show you how I know that, because you really want to trust the code stamped into the engine block, because you can't change that. And that code, as you can see, it's faint, but it says DOM, that's date of manufacture, 12, 16, and then the number 15. This mower was made in 2015. That's the model number of this mower. If you ever need to buy parts for this engine, you would need that model number. And what I wanted to do with Janet, which is what I'm naming this one, the prior mower was Isabel, and I'm thinking about just taking off this tank and carburetor as a unit and putting Isabel's on there. There's Isabel, because Isabel did run, but she had a bent crankshaft. So I had to scrap her and save the tank and the carburetor, which is should be fine, because it did run. And or I could just take this one off and clean it and everything. But I wanted to take a minute to show you what I look for on a used mower. Just in evaluating it, I like to make sure that the kill switch works, and it does without binding or locking up because of rust. And if this piece here starts to bend, that means that this is rusted, and you can actually break that, but this one is working okay. And you can see the movement. I don't know if you can see that wire, but it's moving in and out of this wire housing. See how that, okay, so it's moving back and forth. So that kill switch is gonna work. I look at the air filter. I look at the oil, and the oil in this one is perfect. It's right up to where it needs to be. We'll look at that in a minute. This mower takes a bag, but it didn't have the bag with it. I check the wheels to make sure they spin easily. They spin pretty easily, but it wouldn't hurt to clean them a little bit, and I'll show you why in a second. This is the one on this side. Hear that? And they spin, that's okay, but it wouldn't hurt to lubricate these a little bit. I got the spark plug wire off in case I want to work on this thing here in the next few minutes. But let's take a look at this wheel over here. And sometimes if you get these old mowers, you'll have one wheel or more that's just so tight. It's like, oh, it just won't hardly spin. And you're wondering why. Well, that's because this wheel has an inner liner of metal, and I'll show you that. Some wheels are just plastic, so this is not an issue, but for the ones that have, it's actually a higher quality wheel. See that metal liner? If this gets rusted, which it often does, and then this gets rusted on the inside, this piece will get fixed in there and rusted shut, And so what happens is the plastic wheel then spins around on that liner, which is fixed. And the plastic spins around that, and there's tiny little grooves on the outside of this liner to keep it from spinning, to hold it in place. But if you get one that's really, really tight and won't spin, what you'll find is that the plastic is spinning around this housing instead of the housing turning on this spindle. And so you've got all this pressure that you're going against because you're going against the grooves on the outside of this housing. And then you got a problem because the wheel may not even come off. And I've worked on many like this where it'll spin on there against where the plastic is spinning around that metal sheath, that's inside that. And you think, well, I'm going to get that off and fix that. And you can't hardly get it off. And so you rock it back and forth and finally get it off. And then you'll find this housing sitting on the spindle rusted to it. And then you've got to get that off in order to replace the wheel and get something that's not going to be binding or rusted or whatever. Fortunately, this one is not like that. It does spin, but I'll show you how I improve even that. So let me put this in the holster, and let's take a good look at this now. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you what I do for these wheels. So this mower becomes really easy to push because there's a lot of crud there. All right, so what we're going to do, let me get my gloves on, and I'm going to do this for all 4 of these wheels. But we're just going to do one on camera because you'll know what to do now. And I get a piece of pretty coarse sandpaper, and so that it doesn't tear, I put packaging tape, strapping tape on the back of that so the sandpaper doesn't just tear up. So, because this strapping tape is tough. Okay, so I'm just going to go like this on this axle, or whatever you call it, the spindle, whatever you want to call it. See how shiny that's getting? That's all that crud coming off of there that is dragging on that metal sheath inside this wheel. And over time it'll rust, and then it gets set on there, and then you've got a serious problem like we talked about earlier. So let's take a little bit more of this off and get this. Gotta go this way because you want to get all the round. You're going to get that side, get this side, get the underneath. The underneath comes off pretty quickly, but let's get the top there. Okay, now the other thing you can do, since this is already spinning in pretty good shape, you can get a little piece of sandpaper and spin it around on there. Put it on like a small shaft screwdriver and spin it around like that. So let's see, that maybe I could find a little, yeah, here we go. I've got a little scrap of sandpaper, and we'll just put it on there. So you take this, wrap that sandpaper around it like that. All right, so now you've got that, which is going to go in here, and you just spin that wheel around, maybe a little in and out, both sides. Okay, all this is going to help this get that crud out of there that's caused that wheel to drag, and then this mower will be a lot easier to use and to push. Okay, so now that I've got that done, I'll just wipe that off. Now I get me a little bit of oil or WD-40 or something, and hit that on there. All right, so now we got this metal touching metal, and it's super lubricated. So I love to see that when the wheel just spins and spins and spins. This mower is going to be much easier to push after we've done that. See, I'm not touching it. It's just free spinning. So that's how you clean these, and you keep them from rusting and then getting to the point where it's so fixed on there that you end up stripping this, and the plastic is spinning around those grooves of that inner housing. So that's going to be great. And so let's leave it there. Stay tuned. We're going to get Janet running here pretty soon.